All right, are you ready to go? All right. Now, this book, I might say, is not a complete copy of Counsels on Diet and Foods. These are sections from that book, just so you understand that. All right, we're going to start with number 47. And I'm just going to read, and I'm not going to comment. I'm just going to read. Let none who profess godliness regard with indifference the health of the body, and flatter themselves that intemperance is no sin and will not affect their spirituality. A close sympathy exists between the physical and the moral nature. The next one, 48. With our first parents, intemperate desire resulted in the loss of Eden. Temperance in all things has more to do with our restoration to Eden than men realize. The next one, 49. The transgression of physical law is the transgression of God's law. Our Creator is Jesus Christ. He is the author of our being. He has created the human structure. He is the author of physical laws, as He is the author of the moral law. And the human being who is careless and reckless of the habits and practices that concern his physical life and health sins against God. Many who profess to love Jesus Christ do not show proper reverence and respect for Him who gave His life to save them from eternal death. He is not reverenced or respected or recognized. All right, go to the next page, 51. Excessive indulgence in eating, drinking, sleeping, or seeing is sin. The harmonious, healthy action of all the powers of body and mind results in happiness. And the more elevated and refined the powers, the more pure and unalloyed the happiness. 52, the next one down. A large portion of all the infirmities that afflict the human family are the results of their own wrong habits because of their willing ignorance or of their disregard of the light which God has given in relation to the laws of their being. Look at the bottom of the page, 53. It is a duty to know how to preserve the body in the very best condition of health. It is a sacred duty to live up to the light which God has graciously given. Move to the next page, 55. God requires of His people continual advancement. We need to learn that indulged appetite is the greatest hindrance to mental improvement and soul sanctification. With all our profession of health reform, many of us eat improperly. Next one, 56. We should not provide for the Sabbath a more liberal supply or a greater variety of food than for other days. Instead of this, the food should be more simple and less should be eaten, in order that the mind may be clear and vigorous to comprehend spiritual things. A clogged stomach means a clogged brain. Next page, number 58. You need clear, energetic minds in order to appreciate the exalted character of the truth, to value the atonement, and to place the right estimate upon eternal things. Look at the next page at the very bottom. It is part of 60, but is at the very bottom. The use of unnatural stimulants is destructive to health and has a benumbing influence upon the brain, making it impossible to appreciate eternal things. Those who cherish these idols cannot rightly value the salvation which Christ has wrought out for them by a life of self-denial, continual suffering and reproach, and by finally yielding His own sinless life to save perishing man from death. Next one, 61. Butter and meat stimulate. These have injured the stomach and perverted the taste. The sensitive nerves of the brain have been benumbed and the animal appetite strengthened at the expense of the moral and intellectual faculties. Look on the next page, number 64. Those who bring disease upon themselves by self-gratification have not healthy bodies and minds. They cannot weigh the evidences of truth and comprehend the requirements of God. Our Savior will not reach his arm low enough to raise such from their degraded state, while they persist in pursuing a course to sink themselves still lower. Bottom of the page 65. The abuses of the stomach by the gratification of appetite are the fruitful source of most church trials. Those who eat and work intemperately and irrationally talk and act irrationally. An intemperate man cannot be a patient man. It is not necessary to drink alcoholic liquors in order to be intemperate. The sin of intemperate eating, eating too frequently, too much, and of rich, unwholesome food, destroys the healthy action of the digestive organs, affects the brain, and perverts the judgment, preventing rational, calm, healthy thinking and acting. Look at the bottom of the page, 67. Some have sneered at this work of reform. For those, the word sneer means making fun of. Come on, that kind of thing. And have said it was all unnecessary, that it was an excitement to divert minds from present truth. They have said that matters were being carried to extremes. Such do not know what they are talking about. While men and women professing godliness are diseased from the crown of their head to the soles of their feet, while their physical, mental, and moral energies are enfeebled through gratification of depraved appetite and excessive labor, how can they weigh the evidences of truth and comprehend the requirements of God? Look at the next page, the last paragraph of the next page. There are but few as yet who are aroused sufficiently to understand how much their habits of diet have to do with their health, their characters, their usefulness in this world, and their eternal destiny. Go to the next page, number 68. Physical habits have a great deal to do with the success of every individual. The more careful you are in your diet, the more simple and unstimulating the food that sustains the body in its harmonious action, the more clear will be your conception of duty. There needs to be a careful review of every habit, every practice, lest a morbid or like deathly condition of the body shall cast a cloud upon everything. Look at the very bottom of the page in the section of 70, but the last paragraph. It is enough for the disciple that he be as his master and the servant as his Lord. Our tables are frequently spread with luxuries neither healthful nor necessary, because we love these things more than we love self-denial, freedom from disease, and the soundness of mind. Look at the next page. At the very top of the page, towards the end of that, look at that. Our own strength is weakness, but that which God gives is mighty, and will make everyone who obtains it more than conqueror. Look towards the bottom of the page. It says self-indulgence, all right, under 71. Self-indulgence debars the human agent from witnessing for the truth. The gratitude we offer to God for his blessings is greatly affected by the food placed in the stomach. Indulgence of appetite is the cause of dissension, strife, discord, and many other evils. Impatient words are spoken and unkind deeds are done, dishonest practices are followed, and passion is manifested, all because the nerves of the brain are diseased by the abuse heaped upon the stomach. Turn the page and look over on the next page under 74. Under 74, the next paragraph under 74. The minister should decline this well-meant but unwise hospitality. In other words, people trying to invite him to eat too much, even at the risk of seeming discourteous. And the people should have too much true kindness to press such an alternative upon him. They err when they tempt the minister with unhealthful food. Turn the page. Under 75, the next paragraph. There are rights which belong to every individual. We have an individuality and an identity that is our own. No one can submerge his identity in that of any other. All must act for themselves according to the dictates of their own conscience. As regards our responsibility and influence, we are amenable to God as deriving our life from him. This we do not obtain from humanity, but from God only. We are his by creation and by redemption. Our very bodies are not our own, to treat as we please, to cripple by habits that lead to decay, making it impossible to render to God perfect service. Our lives and all our faculties belong to him. He is caring for us every moment. He keeps the living machinery in action. If we were left to run it for one moment, we should die. We are absolutely dependent upon God. Next page, number 78. Many articles of food eaten freely by the heathen about them were forbidden to the Israelites. It was no arbitrary distinction that was made. The things prohibited were unwholesome, and the fact that they were pronounced unclean taught the lesson that the use of injurious food is defiling. 79. The Spirit of God cannot come to our help and assist us in perfecting Christian characters while we are indulging our appetites to the injury of health and while the pride of life controls. Next one, 80. All who are partakers of the divine nature will escape the corruption that is in the world through lust. It is impossible for those who indulge the appetite to attain to Christian perfection. Now, skip over a few pages to number 87. It's on page 23, 87. The people who lived before the flood ate animal food and gratified their lusts until their cup of iniquity was full, and God cleansed the earth of its moral pollution by a flood. Number 88. The same sins exist in our day, which brought the wrath of God upon the world in the days of Noah. Men and women now carry their eating and drinking to gluttony and drunkenness. This prevailing sin, the indulgence of perverted appetite, inflamed the passions of men in the days of Noah and led to general corruption until their violence and crimes reached to heaven, and God washed the earth of its moral pollution by a flood. Turn the page and go one more page beyond that to number 91. I will tell you this, that my wife gets after me for this, as I'm sure your spouses do, because we don't keep regular hours all the time. In fact, she knows not to warm up any food until she actually sees the whites of my eyes in the kitchen. Number 91, irregularity in eating and drinking and improper dressing deprave the mind and corrupt the heart, and bring the noble attributes of the soul in slavery to the animal passions. The next one, let none who profess godliness regard with indifference the health of the body, and flatter themselves that intemperance is no sin, and will not affect their spirituality. A close sympathy exists between the physical and the moral nature. The standard of virtue is elevated or degraded by the physical habits. Excessive eating of the best of food will produce a morbid or deathly condition of the moral feelings. And if the food is not the most healthful, the effects will be still more injurious. Any habit which does not promote healthful action in the human system degrades the higher and noble faculties. Wrong habits of eating and drinking lead to errors in thought and action. Indulgence of appetite strengthens the animal propensities, giving them the ascendancy over the mental and spiritual powers. Next paragraph. Abstain from fleshly lusts which war against the soul, is the language of the Apostle Peter. Many regard this warning as applicable only to the licentious, but it has a broader meaning. It guards against every injurious gratification of appetite or passion. It is a most forcible warning against the use, okay, let's read it, of such stimulants and narcotics as tea, coffee, tobacco, alcohol, and morphine. These indulgences may well be classed among the lusts that exert a pernicious influence upon moral character. The earlier these hurtful habits are formed, the more firmly they will hold their victim in slavery to lust, and the more certainly will they lower the standard of spirituality. Move a little underneath 93. My brother, arouse yourself, I pray you, and let the work of the Spirit of God reach deeper than the external. Let it reach down to the deep springs of every action. It is principle that is wanted, firm principle and vigor of action in spiritual as well as temporal things. Your efforts lack earnestness. Oh, how many are low in the scale of spirituality because they will not deny their appetite. The brain nerve energy is benumbed and almost paralyzed by overeating. When such go to the house of God upon the Sabbath, they cannot hold their eyes open. 94. If all who profess to obey the law of God were free from iniquity, my soul would be relieved, but they are not. Even some who profess to keep all the commandments of God are guilty of the sin of adultery. What can I say to arouse their benumbed sensibilities? Next page, 95. Your food is not of that simple, healthful quality which will make the best kind of blood. Foul blood will surely becloud the moral and intellectual powers and arouse and strengthen the baser passions of your nature. Neither of you can afford a feverish diet, for it is at the expense of the health of the body and the prosperity of your own souls and the souls of your children. Look at a paragraph just down from that. I entreat you, for Christ's sake, to set your house and hearts in order. Let the truth of heavenly origin elevate and sanctify you, soul, body, and spirit. Abstain from fleshly lusts which war against the soul. Brother G, your eating has a tendency to strengthen the baser passions. You do not control your body as it is your duty to do in order to perfect holiness in the fear of God. Temperance in eating must be practiced before you can be a patient man. Turn the page, 111. In order to know what are the best foods, we must study God's original plan for man's diet. He who created man and who understands his needs appointed Adam his food. Behold, he said, I have given you every herb yielding seed and every tree in which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for food. Next paragraph. Grains, fruits, nuts, and vegetables constitute the diet chosen for us by our Creator. These foods, prepared in a simple and natural a manner as possible, are the most healthful and nourishing. They impart a strength, a power of endurance, and a vigor of intellect that are not afforded by a more complex and stimulating diet. Next one. God gave our first parents the food he designed that the race should eat. It was contrary to his plan to have the life of any creature taken. 113. The Lord intends to bring his people back to live upon simple fruits, vegetables, and grains. God provided fruit in its natural state for our first parents. Next page. God is working in behalf of his people. He does not desire them to be without resources. He is bringing them back to the diet originally given to man. Next one. Again and again, I have been shown that God is bringing his people back to his original design. That is, not to subsist upon the flesh of dead animals. He would have us teach people a better way. Turn the page, 117. God wants men to cultivate force of character. Those who are merely time servers are not the ones who will receive a rich reward by and by. He wants those who labor in his cause to be men of keen feeling and quick perception. They should be temperate in eating. Rich and luxurious food should find no place upon their tables. And when the brain is constantly taxed and there is a lack of physical exercise, they should eat sparingly even of plain food. 119 at the bottom. You need to carry out the health reform in your life, to deny yourself and eat and drink to the glory of God. Abstain from fleshly lusts which war against the soul. Go into the middle of the page. It says, in order to render to God perfect service, you must have clear conceptions of his requirements. You should use the most simple food, prepared in the most simple manner, that the fine nerves of the brain be not weakened, benumbed, or paralyzed, making it impossible for you to discern sacred things and to value the atonement, the cleansing blood of Christ, as of priceless worth. Turn the page, the bottom, 121. A reform in eating would be a saving of expense and labor. The wants of a family can be easily supplied that is satisfied with plain, wholesome diet. Rich food breaks down the healthy organs of body and mind. Turn the page to 126, page 37, 126. Let those who advocate health reform strive earnestly to make it all that they claim it is. Let them discard everything detrimental to health. Use simple, wholesome food. Fruit is excellent and saves much cooking. Discard rich pastries, cakes, desserts, and the other dishes prepared to tempt the appetite. Eat fewer kinds of food at one meal and eat with thanksgiving. Turn 2 pages over to 131, page 40, 131. We must be constantly meditating upon the word, eating it, digesting it, and by practice assimilating it so that it is taken into the life current. He who feeds on Christ daily will by his example teach others to think less of that which they eat and to feel much greater anxiety for the food they give to the soul. Bottom of the page, 132. Should we dress in plain, modest apparel without reference to the fashions? Should our tables at all times be set with simple, healthful food, avoiding all luxuries, all extravagance? Should our houses be built with becoming plainness and furnished in the same manner? It would show the sanctifying power of the truth and would have a telling influence upon believers. Bottom of the next page, 134. If professed Christians would use less of their wealth in adorning the body and in beautifying their own houses, and would consume less in extravagant, health-destroying luxuries upon their tables, they could place much larger sums in the treasury of God. They would thus imitate their Redeemer, who left heaven, his riches, and his glory, and for our sakes became poor, that we might have eternal riches. Next page, 135. Because it is wrong to eat merely to gratify perverted taste, it does not follow that we should be indifferent in regard to our food. It is a matter of the highest importance. Next page, 138. In grains, fruits, vegetables, and nuts are to be found all the food elements that we need. Next page, 140. Investigate your habits of diet. Study from cause to effect, but do not bear false witness against health reform by ignorantly pursuing a course which militates against it. Turn the page to 143. The foods used should correspond to the climate. Some foods suitable for one country would not do at all in another place. The next, not all foods wholesome in themselves are equally suited to our needs under all circumstances. Care should be taken in the selection of food. Our diet should be suited to the season, to the climate in which we live, and to the occupation we follow. Next page, 148. In order to do our work in straight, simple lines, we must recognize the conditions to which the human family are subjected. Next page, 150. The Lord desires those living in countries where fresh fruit can be obtained during a large part of the year to awake to the blessing they have in this fruit. 151. The Lord will teach many in all parts of the world to combine fruits, grains, and vegetables into foods that will sustain life and will not bring disease. Those who have never seen the recipes for making the health foods now on the market will work intelligently, experimenting with the food productions of the earth, and will be given light regarding the use of these productions. Turn 2 pages over, you'll get to what is 465 under fruits. The Lord desires those living in countries where fresh fruit can be obtained during a large part of the year to awake to the blessing they have in this fruit. The more we depend upon the fresh fruit just as it is plucked from the tree, the greater will be the blessing. Bottom of the page, 469. Nicely prepared vegetables and fruits in their season will be beneficial if they are of the best quality, not showing the slightest sign of decay, but are of sound and unaffected by any disease or decay. More die by eating decayed fruit and decayed vegetables, which ferment in the stomach and result in blood poisoning, than we have any idea of. 470 at the top. A plain, simple, but liberal supply of fruit is the best food that can be placed before those who are preparing for the work of God. Next one. Grains, fruits, nuts, and vegetables constitute the diet chosen for us by our Creator. Bottom of the page, 473. Intemperate eating is often the cause of sickness, and what nature most needs is to be relieved of the undue burden that has been placed upon her. In many cases of sickness, the very best remedy is for the patient to fast for a meal or two, that the overworked organs of digestion may have an opportunity to rest. 475. Do not eat largely of salt. Okay, Peter, don't lecture me now. He knows I like salt, but I have to be careful. Do not eat largely of salt. Avoid the use of pickles and spiced foods. Eat an abundance of fruit, and the irritation that calls for so much drink at mealtime will largely disappear. Next page towards the top. For household canning, glass rather than tin cans should be used whenever possible. It is especially necessary that the fruit for canning should be in good condition. Use little sugar and cook the fruit only long enough to ensure its preservation. 478. If you can get apples, you are in a good condition as far as fruit is concerned. If you have nothing else, I do not think such large varieties of fruit are essential, yet they should be carefully gathered and preserved in their season for use when there are no apples to be had. Apples are superior to any fruit for a standby that grows. All right, go to number 481. Grains, fruits, nuts, and vegetables constitute the diet chosen for us by our Creator. 483. It is a mistake to suppose that muscular strength depends on the use of animal food. 484. In grains, fruits, vegetables, and nuts are to be found all the food elements that we need. Next page, 486. If we plan wisely, that which is most conducive to health can be secured in almost every land. The various preparations of rice, wheat, corn, and oats are sent abroad everywhere. Also beans, peas, and lentils. These with native or imported fruits and the variety of vegetables that grow in each locality give an opportunity to select a dietary that is complete without the use of flesh meats. Top of the next page. Grains and fruits prepared free from grease and in as natural a condition as possible should be the food for the tables of all who claim to be preparing for translation to heaven. Turn the page, 493, about bread. Religion will lead mothers to make bread of the very best quality. Bread should be thoroughly baked inside and out. 495. It is a religious duty for every Christian girl and woman to learn at once to make good, sweet, light bread from unbolted wheat flour. Let me just add, I like making bread, so men can be included in that too. All right, look at the next page. Bread should be light and sweet. Not the least taint of sourness should be tolerated. The loaves should be small and so thoroughly baked that as far as possible, the yeast germs shall be destroyed. Zwieback at the bottom, or twice-baked bread, is one of the most easily digested and most palatable of foods. Now turn about 3 pages over to 505, page 66. 505. For use in bread making, the superfine white flour is not the best. Its use is neither healthful nor economical. The next page, 507. Sweetbreads and cookies we seldom have on our table. The less of sweet foods that are eaten, the better. These cause disturbances in the stomach and produce impatience and irritability in those who accustom themselves to their use. Okay, we're stepping on all of our toes, okay? But I'm just reading this, okay? 509. All should be acquainted with the special value of fruits and vegetables fresh from the orchard and garden. Look at the next page, 513. The simple grains, fruits of the trees, vegetables have all the nutritive properties necessary to make good blood. This a flesh diet cannot do. 515. The Lord intends to bring his people back to live upon simple fruits, vegetables, and grains. Next page, 517. We do not think fried potatoes are healthful, for there is more or less grease or butter used in preparing them. 519. Many do not see the importance of having land to cultivate and of raising fruit and vegetables, that their tables may be supplied with these things. I am instructed to say to every family in every church, God will bless you when you work out your own salvation with fear and trembling, fearing lest by unwise treatment of the body you will mar the Lord's plan for you. Next page on 524. Of corn and peas we have raised enough for ourselves and our neighbors. The sweet corn we dry for winter use. Then when we need it, we grind it in a mill and cook it. It makes most palatable soups and other dishes. In their season, we have grapes in abundance, also prunes and apples, and some cherries, peaches, pears, and olives, which we prepare ourselves. Okay, now let's get into desserts. Five, okay? Hey, I'm just reading this stuff, okay? It's good stuff. 525, sugar is not good for the stomach. It causes fermentation, and this clouds the brain and brings peevishness into the disposition. Next one, far too much sugar is ordinarily used in food. Cakes, sweet puddings, pastries, jellies, jams, are active causes of indigestion. 527, sugar clogs the system. It hinders the working of the living machine. Next page in the middle of the page. I frequently sit down to the tables of the brethren and sisters and see that they use a great amount of milk and sugar. These clog the system, irritate the digestive organs, and affect the brain. Next page, right at the top. It is better to let sweet things alone, let alone those sweet dessert dishes that are placed on the table. You do not need them. You want a clear mind to think after God's order. Middle of the page, on that same page. If we are to walk in the light God has given us, we must educate our people, old and young, to dispense with these foods that are eaten merely for the indulgence of appetite. Next page, 531. Everything is plain yet wholesome because it is not merely thrown together in a haphazard way. We have no sugar on our table. Our sauce, which is our dependence in apples, baked or stewed, sweetened as is required before being put upon the table. We have always used a little milk and some sugar. This we have never denounced, either in our writings or in our preaching. We believe cattle will become so diseased that these things will be discarded. But the time has not yet come for sugar and milk to be wholly abolished from our tables. Now, at the bottom of the page, now in regard to milk and sugar, I know of persons who have become frightened at the health reform and said they would have nothing to do with it because it has spoken against a free use of these things. Changes should be made with great care, and we should move cautiously and wisely. All right, next page, 534. I frequently sit down to the tables of the brethren and sisters and see that they use a great amount of milk and sugar. These clog the system, irritate the digestive organs, and affect the brain. 536, especially harmful are the custards and puddings in which milk eggs and sugar are the chief ingredients. The free use of milk and sugar taken together should be avoided. Next page, 539. Because it is the fashion in harmony with morbid appetite, deadly appetite or deathly appetite, rich cakes, pies, and puddings, and every hurtful thing are crowded into the stomach. Next page, 544. The desserts that are taken in the form of custards are liable to do more harm than good. Fruit, if it can be obtained, is the best article of food. Next one. Far too much sugar is ordinarily used in food. Cakes, sweet puddings, pastries, jellies, jams are active causes of indigestion. Especially harmful are the custards and puddings in which milk, eggs, and sugar are the chief ingredients. Next page, 547. Plain, simple pie may serve as dessert, but when one eats 2 or 3 pieces merely to gratify an inordinate appetite, he unfits himself for the service of God. All right, let's turn a few more pages. Now we're going to get into a section, and just remember, I'm just reading this. All right, this is on flesh diet, meat, okay? 639. You know, and I didn't make this stuff up, okay? This is not Wilson trying to just imagine something good for you. And some people think, oh, you know, some of this stuff, this is for people in America. It doesn't apply to us. Human beings are human beings everywhere, okay? All right. Enough comment. I said I wasn't going to comment much. All right. 639. God gave our first parents the food he designed that the race should eat. It was contrary to his plan to have the life of any creature taken. Down towards the bottom of that section. After the flood, the people ate largely of animal food. God saw that the ways of man were corrupt and that he was disposed to exalt himself proudly against his creator and to follow the inclinations of his own heart. And he permitted that long-lived race to eat animal food to shorten their sinful lives. Soon after the flood, the race began to rapidly decrease in size and in length of years. Next page, 641. The diet appointed man in the beginning did not include animal food. Not till after the flood, when every green thing on the earth had been destroyed, did man receive permission to eat flesh. Next page, near the top. By departing from the plan divinely appointed for their diet, the Israelites suffered great loss. They desired a flesh diet, and they reaped its results. They did not reach God's ideal of character or fulfill his purpose. 642. The Lord plainly told his people that every blessing would come to them if they would keep his commandments and be a peculiar people. He warned them through Moses in the wilderness, specifying that health would be the reward of obedience. Okay, turn about 2 pages over. You will see God's purpose for Israel, 644, and go down towards the end of the page. Had they been willing to deny appetite in obedience to his restrictions, feebleness and disease would have been unknown among them. Their descendants would have possessed physical and mental strength. They would have had clear perceptions of truth and duty, keen discrimination and sound judgment. But they were unwilling to submit to God's requirements, and they failed to reach the standard which he had set for them, and to receive the blessings that might have been theirs. They murmured at God's restrictions and lusted after the flesh pots of Egypt. God let them have flesh, but it proved a curse to them. Move to 2 pages later, 468. Again and again, I have been shown that God is trying to lead us back, step by step, to his original diet, that man should subsist upon the natural products of the earth. Next one, vegetables, fruits, and grains should compose our diet. Not an ounce of flesh meat should enter our stomachs. The eating of flesh is unnatural. We are to return to God's original purpose in the creation of man. Next page, 651. Among those who will be waiting for the coming of the Lord, meat eating will eventually be done away. Flesh will cease to form a part of their diet. We should ever keep this end in view and endeavor to work steadily toward it. Top of the page, next page, 653. Those who have received instruction regarding the evils of the use of flesh food, tea, and coffee, and rich and unhealthful food preparations, and who are determined to make a covenant with God by sacrifice, will not continue to indulge their appetite for food that they know to be unhealthful. Next page, 656. Those who claim to believe the truth are to guard carefully the powers of body and mind, so that God and his cause will not be in any way dishonored by their words or actions. Next page, 659. Those who use flesh meat disregard all the warnings that God has given concerning this question. They have no evidence that they are walking in safe paths. They have not the slightest excuse for eating the flesh of dead animals. God's curse is resting upon the animal creation. Many times when meat is eaten, it decays in the stomach and creates disease. Cancers, tumors, and pulmonary diseases are largely caused by meat eating. Turn the page, 644. The light given me is that it will not be very long before we shall have to give up using any animal food. Even milk will have to be discarded. Disease is accumulating rapidly. Next page, 667. Many die of disease caused wholly by meat eating, yet the world does not seem to be the wiser. Animals are frequently killed that have been driven quite a distance for the slaughter. Their blood has become heated. They are full of flesh and have been deprived of healthy exercise. And when they have to travel far, they become surfeited and exhausted, and in that condition are killed for market. Their blood is highly inflamed, and those who eat of their meat eat poison. Some are not immediately affected, while others are attacked with severe pain and die from fever, cholera, or some unknown disease. Next page, 668. The liability to take disease is increased tenfold by meat eating. 669. Worldly physicians cannot account for the rapid increase of disease among the human family, but we know that much of this suffering is caused by the eating of dead flesh. Next page, 673. Flesh meats will depreciate the blood. Cook meat with spices and eat it with rich cakes and pies, and you have a bad quality of blood. 674. Cancers, tumors, and all inflammatory diseases are largely caused by meat eating. From the light God has given me, the prevalence of cancer and tumors is largely due to gross living on dead flesh. 675. The meat diet is the serious question. Shall human beings live on the flesh of dead animals? The answer from the light that God has given is no, decidedly no. Health reform institutions should educate on this question. Next page, 678. Those who use flesh meats freely do not always have an unclouded brain and an active intellect, because the use of the flesh of animals tends to cause a grossness of body and to benumb the finer sensibilities of the mind. Next page, 682. A meat diet changes the disposition and strengthens animalism. We are composed of what we eat, and eating much flesh will diminish intellectual activity. Next page, 688. The intellectual, the moral, and the physical powers are depreciated by the habitual use of flesh meats. Meat eating deranges the system, beclouds the intellect, and blunts the moral sensibilities. We say to you, dear brother and sister, your safest course is to let meat alone. Turn the page to about 2 pages later, 696. We're getting close to the end here. As a family, you are far from being free from disease. You have used the fat of animal, which God in his word expressly forbids. 697. The meat is served reeking with fat, because it suits the perverted taste. Both the blood and the fat of animals are consumed as a luxury, but the Lord gave special directions that these should not be eaten. Why? Because their use would make a diseased current of blood in the human system. Next page, 698. In many places, fish become so contaminated by the filth on which they feed as to be a cause of disease. This is especially the case where the fish come in contact with the sewage of large cities. 699. Where plenty of good milk and fruit can be obtained, there is rarely any excuse for eating animal food. It is not necessary to take the life of any of God's creatures to supply our ordinary needs. Turn the page, 703. The diet of the animals is vegetables and grains. Must the vegetables be animalized? Must they be incorporated into the system of animals before we get them? Must we obtain our vegetable diet by eating the flesh of dead animals? God provided fruit in its natural state for our first parents. 705. When the use of flesh food is discontinued, there is often a sense of weakness, a lack of vigor. Many urge this as evidence that flesh food is essential, but it is because foods of this class are stimulating, because they fever the blood and excite the nerves, that they are so missed. Some will find it as difficult to leave off flesh eating as it is for the drunkard to give up his dram or his cup of beer. But they will be the better for the change. 706. Flesh food also is harmful. It is naturally stimulating effect should be a sufficient argument against its use. Next page. When flesh is discarded, its place should be supplied with a variety of grains, nuts, vegetables, and fruits that will be both nourishing and appetizing. 709. The proper cooking of foods is a most important accomplishment, especially where meat is not made a principal article of food. Is good cooking an essential requirement? The bottom of the next page, 711. Many parents act as if they were bereft of reason. They are in a state of lethargy, palsied by the indulgence of perverted appetite and debasing passion. Our ministers who know the truth should arouse the people from their paralyzed condition and lead them to put away those things that create an appetite for flesh meat. Bottom of the page, 712. If our appetites clamor for the flesh of dead animals, it is a necessity to fast and pray for the Lord to give his grace to deny fleshly lusts which war against the soul. Bottom of the next page, 715. While we do not make the use of flesh meats a test, while we do not want to force anyone to give up its use, yet it is our duty to request that no minister of the conference shall make light of or oppose the message of reform on this point. 717. Let our ministers and canvassers step up to the banners of strict temperance. Never be ashamed to say, "No, thank you, I do not eat meat." 718. Concerning flesh meat, we can all say, "Let it alone." Turn about 3 or 4 pages from here. It's on the page 122 at the bottom. You will see we have been going back to Egypt rather than on to Canaan. Shall we not reverse the order of things? Shall we not have plain, wholesome food on our tables? Next page. Towards the top, it says, it is essential that continuous sameness in diet be avoided. The appetite will be much better if changes in the food are made. Next page. In the sin, towards the top, the sin of this age is gluttony and eating and drinking. Indulgence of appetite is the God which many worship. The next page, 722. The sanitarium is doing good work. We have just come to the point of the vexed meat question. Should not those who come to the sanitarium have meat on their tables and be instructed to leave it off gradually? Years ago, the light was given me that the position should not be taken positively to discard all meat, because in some cases it was better than the desserts and dishes composed of sweets. These are sure to create disturbance. It is the variety and mixture of meat, vegetables, fruits, wines, tea, coffee, sweet cakes, and rich pies that ruin the stomach and place human beings in a position where they become invalids with all the disagreeable effects of sickness upon the disposition. All right, turn the page to 128. In the middle of the page, the light has come to me for many years that meat eating is not good for health or morals. Next paragraph, I presented the advantages to be obtained in this sanitarium. I showed that meat was never to be placed on the table as an article of food, that the life and health of thousands were being sacrificed at the altars where dead flesh was being offered for consumption. Turn to beverages, and we are about done. 726. In health and in sickness, pure water is one of heaven's choicest blessings. Next one. I should eat sparingly, thus relieving any system of unnecessary burden, and should encourage cheerfulness and give myself the benefits of proper exercise in the open air. I would bathe frequently and drink freely of pure, soft water. Water, next one. Water can be used in many ways to relieve suffering. Draughts of clear, hot water taken before eating will never do any harm, but will rather be productive of use. Next one. Thousands have died for want of pure water and pure air who might have lived. Next page, 731. Many make a mistake of drinking cold water with their meals. Taken with meals, water diminishes the flow of the salivary glands, and the colder the water, the greater the injury to the stomach. Next page, 732. The stimulating diet and drink of this day are not conducive to the best state of health. Tea, coffee, and tobacco are all stimulating and contain poisons. They are not only unnecessary, but harmful, and should be discarded if we would add to knowledge temperance. 733, tea is poisonous to the system. Christians should let it alone. The influence of coffee is in a degree the same as tea, but the effect upon the system is still worse. 735, never take tea, coffee, beer, wine, or any spirituous liquors. Water is the best liquid possible to cleanse the tissues. At the top of the next page, coffee is a hurtful indulgence. Bottom of the page, the habit of drinking tea and coffee is a greater evil than is often suspected. Next page, at the bottom, we are already suffering because of the wrong habits of our fathers, and yet how many take a course in every way worse than theirs? Opium, tea, coffee, tobacco, and liquor are rapidly extinguishing the spark of vitality still left in the race. In the middle of the next page, tea acts as a stimulant, and you can read the rest. Next paragraph, because of these results, many suppose that their tea or coffee is doing them great good, but this is a mistake. Read the next paragraph also. Then in the next page, 739, the health is in no way improved by the use of those things which stimulate for a time, but afterward cause a reaction which leaves the system lower than before. The top of the page, 741, tea and coffee drinking is a sin, an injurious indulgence, which like other evils injures the soul. 743, tea and coffee as well as tobacco have an injurious effect upon the system. The next paragraph, those who are in the habit of using tea, coffee, tobacco, opium, or spirituous liquors cannot worship God when they are deprived of the accustomed indulgence. Next page, 744, Satan sees that he cannot have so great power over minds when the appetite is kept under control as when it is indulged, and he is constantly working to lead men to indulgence. Towards the bottom of the page, every true Christian will have control of his appetites and passions. Bottom of the next page, the only safe course is to touch not, taste not, handle not tea, coffee, wines, tobacco, opium, and alcoholic drinks. And then in conclusion, page 143. In relation to tea, coffee, tobacco, it's towards the end. Tea, coffee, tobacco, and alcoholic drinks. The only safe course is to touch not, taste not, handle not. Next page, 749, concerning flesh meat, we can all say, let it alone, and all should bear a clear testimony against tea and coffee, never using them. Next page, 752, under some circumstances, persons may require a third meal. This should, however, if taken at all, be very light and of food most easily digested. 754, hot drinks are not required except as a medicine. The stomach is greatly injured by a large quantity of hot food and hot drink. And then at the very, very end of the entire collection here, page 148, towards the bottom of the page, as a people, we profess to be reformers, to be light bearers in the world, to be faithful sentinels for God, guarding every avenue whereby Satan could come in with his temptations to pervert the appetite. And then the next page, skip over a page, the top it says, there is danger to health in the use of even sweet cider as ordinarily produced. If people could see what the microscope reveals in regard to the cider they buy, few would be willing to drink it. Next page, the pure juice of the grape, free from fermentation, is a wholesome drink. And the last one, 758. Make fruit the article of diet to be placed on your table, which shall constitute the bill of fare. The juices of fruit mingled with bread will be highly enjoyed. Good, ripe, and undecayed fruit is the thing we should thank the Lord for, because it is beneficial to health. Well, that is a very well, I'm glad you're clapping and not throwing eggs at me or something. I leave it with you to digest that. It's important for your health. God wants you to be in good health, just as your soul prospers. 3 John, verse 2. Thank you, Sister Chair.
Thank you very much, Elder Wilson. And at this stage, the live stream will finish for today. We look forward to welcoming you tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock for our devotional. And now I would invite Elder De Los Santos and Dr. Landless.